Welcome back, my friends, to TFT Hyperroll with Autarch, and I want to show you a build that changed a little bit with the latest patch, and this was played the day before patch day. So I'm going to show you the build, but also explain how it might be played differently in the new patch. It's not a major shift, but let's look at the first set of augments. We start rolling and then get to something interesting, Wrath of the Moon. This is going to give Umbrell champions 4% more damage every second they remain in combat. It also gives me an opportunity to do this build that I've been kind of wanting to do for a while. Overall, let's just talk about Umbrell while we watch the first fight. There are 6 Umbrell champions and then a couple of crossovers you can use. You have an Umbrell Reaper, which means you can go Umbrell Reaper, which is what we're going to do here, or you have an Umbrell Duelist, so you can go Umbrell Duelist, but that's only really good if you get an Umbrell emblem and can stick it on a duelist like Irelia, who can sit in the back line and destroy things. Now, the Umbrell Reaper is Yone, and while they nerfed him a little bit, it is not significant compared to how they buffed Umbrells at certain levels. We'll get there when we get there. And another thing you need to know with Umbrells is your tank is Yorick, period, end of story, just accept it. You're going to build all your tank items onto Yorick and hopefully get him up to gold 3 stars. And most important to know is that the Umbrells who start on Umbrell squares get a little shield for health and also the ability to execute opposing champions when they hit certain levels of health. Let's look at the second set of augments, and it should be leaping out at you which one we need to take, which is the Midnight Siphon. I don't know why I bothered rolling, it was just because. It's pretty easy at that point to get to the gold 3-star Yorick, which is key because that is going to help you along the way. Now, any of the Umbrells have a chance to execute someone. It obviously becomes easier when Yorick's going to do a ton of damage, but you mainly want to focus on Yone even with the nerfs that he got, because they weren't that severe. Key items for Yone are going to be Bloodthirster, Titan's Resolve, Rageblade. The fact that he is a Reaper is going to give him the chance to crit, and is also going to give him a bleed once you get to 4. For an item choice here, we're going to go ahead and go with the Negatron Cloak. We could take the Recurve Bow and then turn it into a Rageblade, but I'd rather get the Bloodthirster on him first. The downside to Umbrell is that your positioning, you don't really have too much choice. You want to put your people in the Umbrell circles, which are on a set place on the board. Until you get to 6, then you can move them around, but the choice to go to 6 might change depending on the circumstances. Time for our final set of augments, and this was a really tough choice because I could use 2 really good tank items for Yorick. Prismatic Ticket's normally a take, but not against that, but Pandora's Items? It's going to give me a Radiant, which I might be able to either get a tank item or turn it into one, and then I can craft my remaining items into what I need to be tank items, so I decide to go that route. By stage 7, you're hoping for 4 Umbrells, 4 Reapers, and that will give you a noticeable power spike. The Reapers are going to have a bleed on their attack, and Yone will be able to execute people, which will be great for when he pops into the backline. Now let me talk for a moment about the difference between 4 and 6 Umbrell. In the patch I'm playing this game on, the difference between 4 and 6 Umbrell was how many squares on the board. When you had 6, it was the entire board. When you had 4, it had this pattern. However, in the new patch, when you go to 6, not only do you get the entire board, but it increases your execution chance to 20% instead of 18. So in this new patch, there is a bigger advantage to going up to 6 Umbrell. However, it's still not necessary. You're only gaining 2% additional on your executions, and if it's more advantageous to bring in champions that are not Umbrell, you can still stick with 4, and I likely would have done that with this particular build. Since we had the Yorick augment, I definitely wanted to bring in an additional behemoth, and I got a 2-star Ornn. Also, bringing in Annie is not a bad idea because that will tick Invoker along with a Loon, and that makes for a really, really solid front line. And thanks to that and the 4 Reapers, we are now into the top 4. And due to Pandora's items, I haven't really been showing item choices because I've just been sort of waiting for the right ones for the right champs, but it's fairly obvious. I mentioned the 3 key items for Yone. I tanked up Yorick as much as I could, added some tank items, Yorn and Annie, and then on Silas, he's really sort of an AD champ, so you want to put things like Infinity Edge, Hand of Justice, etc. on him. And the Reapers are really the ones that are going to make this work, because once someone gets low, they're just going to get knocked off the map. Yone being able to snap into the backline is going to be key. You can see here that as he gets in on their backline, he's able to execute them, and that allows us to not necessarily suffer what could have been a loss. And let's just go ahead and look at the last 2 item choices. Even though we could change them, we're going to take them sort of as is and just put them on people. Here, Ionic Spark, certainly not a bad one for a frontline champ, especially since we have a Loon in the backline doing AP damage that can execute people. Then, Last Whisperer can go on Silas, who also, again, can execute people because he's an Umbrell. Your goal with this build is to make sure your Umbrals have all the power. They're going to be doing the executing, and that's, again, the key here. And you can see it here again. As things get low, they just disappear off the board. Are there huge amounts of RNG involved? Absolutely. Those first 2 augments were key. Without them, this may not have worked, but it made Yorick an almost impenetrable tank. And then we were able to get the Reapers at the right time, and that was enabling them to crit, lower people, execute them, and it's then GG for everyone. So Umbrell Reapers can work with the right augments, the right items, and the right setup. Hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have an absolutely awesome day.